What's up YouTube? It's your boy Nash here. Welcome back to the channel, and today, today I have an updated Ishizu tier deck profile for you guys. I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are thinking, wait a minute, why are you updating the deck? It's no good anymore. You may think that, but truth be told, the deck is still playable. Is it as broken as it was when everything was at 3 and when Kikalas was legal? No, it's not as powerful, but it's still consistent. It's still pretty nuts, and I'm gonna be honest, this is probably one of the best newer versions of the deck I've seen since the deck was first brought into the format. So what's cool about this is that this is a much more different version of the previous deck, because this one utilizes synchro monsters such as Baron, Cypher Lord Omega, Draco Berserker the Tenny, and a few others as well. And the side deck is a bit has switched up a bit, and the main deck basically just helps you go into your synchro plays as well as any of your other plays that you may have at your disposal, which is pretty nuts. So hopefully you guys are ready for this deck profile. If you guys are, and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, smash that thumbs up button, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on all of my social media, including my Instagram, because as you guys know, I always post the photos of the deck on my Instagram, so you guys can check it out. Link to my social media will be in the description, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. Excuse me. Now we're going to kick things off with probably one of the weirdest cards in the deck, but it's pretty good. It is known as Visas Starfrost, which is basically the star of the entire Tearlaments, Kashtira, Bestial, line, if you will. So Visas Starfrost, if you guys have never seen this card before, or never saw me talk about this card on the channel, it's a 6-star Light Warrior tuner with 2100 attack, 1500 defense, and the effect reads: if this card is in your hand, you can target a monster you control with a different type and attribute than this card, destroy that monster, and special summon this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can make this card gain attack equal to have the original attack or defense of that monster, whichever is higher, your choice if tied. Which honestly that right there is pretty nuts. But what's cool about this is that it's a tuner monster. So this card plus any of your monsters, you can instantly go into any monster that you may have at your disposal, which is pretty insane. Pretty insane to say the very least. I just realized I am stupid. I just realized something. I need to check something really quickly. There might be some generic 12-star synchros. For all we know, there could be, but only things that we don't know. Let's see. Is there any generics? There is not. There is not a single generic 12-star. Oh, well. Actually, there is one. There is one. There is one, and I may have to put that into the extra deck, unfortunately. Or you know what? I'll put it in the side. I'll take something out and put it there. There we go. Okay. So all right. Sorry guys. I kind of made a slight faux pas. I kind of made a slight mistake, but I finally fixed it. I ended up having to take out one of the link monsters that was in my side deck, and I put it in a 12-star synchro because Vice's Starfrost as a 6-star tuner plus any of the 4 6-star dragons that I have in the deck, you can instantly go into that 12-star synchro, which is actually the final Sigma, which is kind of nuts. But yeah. So basically, this card plus any monster that you have, you can go into a level 8, a level 10, a level 11, or even a level 12 synchro, depending on what you have at your disposal. And my brother just texted me. Hang on, guys. Give me 1 second, guys. There we go. Anyway, so basically, this is only in here as fodder for a synchro play, but because that I also have a rank 6 Xyz also in the extra deck, it can also be used as fodder for that as well, which is pretty cool. And also too, what's cool about this card is that by having this card, by special summoning this card, pitching a card like say Shiren, like say the Tearlament Shiren, you can instantly go into your fusion plays. So it's basically 2-in-1 for say, which is pretty cool. So again, Vice's Starfrost, but plus any monster you may have, depending on what you want to summon, you get a synchro play. Next up, we have the Tearlaments package, which kicking these off, we got the 1 Tearlaments Kashtira. This is a pretty nutty card. So its first effect is says during the main phase, as a quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand and banish a Kashtira or Tearlaments card from your hand or grave. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send the top 3 cards of other player's deck to the grave. And if this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the grave. This basically gives you access to mill, if possible, either any of your Tearlaments cards, or even any of the Ishizu cards, whatever you want to mill and get off their effects, go into your fusion plays, whatever you may have at your disposal, and you can just combo off from there, which is pretty cool. And not only that, because that I also have the Ash Blossoms in here, I can instantly go into a card like say Baron, which is pretty awesome to say the very least. But there's also another way you can go into level 10s as well, which we'll get to that part in a second. But still, that's pretty cool. Being able to just mill literally 5 cards in 1 turn just off of the Tearlaments Kashtira, that's actually pretty nuts. And it also gives you access, as I said, to go into your fusion plays. But the sad part is, because that Kid Kalos is banned, Rukalos is no longer viable. However, the Kaleidoheart is still viable. It's still a pretty nasty card, and it's essentially it's essentially a way to just set your opponent's board back by a turn, which is pretty cool. Excuse me. Next up, we've got the one-ofs. The one-of tournament cards that got hit. Shiren, Happiness, and Merly. They are all basically fusion. They're all basically fusion cards. So Shiren's effect reads: during your main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand and send a monster from your hand to the grave, and send the top 3 cards of your deck to the grave. And if this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck by placing the materials mentioned on it from your hand, field, and/or graveyard, including this card from your grave, on the bottom of the deck in any order. You can only use each effect once per turn. Happiness effect reads, when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, which is a quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand and send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. To the graveyard. Merly's effect reads that if she's normal or special summon, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the grave. To the graveyard, which is pretty cool. So Merly, Merly is sort of like a combo starter / extender, because if you normal summon her, she's basically the combo starter. If you special summon her, she's the combo extender. So she works both ways basically, and each of these 3 can help you go into cards such as your Mud Dragon of the Swamp, Garua, Predator Plant, Dragon's Depelia, depending, or pretty much any other fusion that you may have at your disposal that can essentially just wipe your opponent's board clean, basically. So which is pretty cool. So it is unfortunate that all 3 of these did have to go to 1, but truth be told, Rhino-Heart is still playable at 3, which is pretty cool, but I decided to keep it at 2, just because of the fact that having it at 3 can oftentimes be a brick. So I decided to just keep the Rhino-Heart at 2, and Rhino-Heart's effect reads that if she's normal or special summon, you can send a tier 1 monster from your deck to the grave except himself. And if it's sent to the grave by a card effect, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field, and send 1 tier element card from your hand to the graveyard. This basically again extends with either Shiren, Happiness, or Merly to go into any of your fusion plays that you may have at your disposal. So if you have 2 Aqua monsters in your deck, in your graveyard, which could be Merly, a Merly, Happiness, Shiren. If you have any of them in your graveyard, and you have Shiren, and you have the Rhino-Heart on board, you can basically just fuse Rhino-Heart plus any of the two Aqua monsters, or even also or even also too yeah, I think it's just those. Any of those, and you can basically just summon out the Kaleido-Heart, which, truth be told, I never thought it would be a fiend. Who would have ever thought? Right? That's kind of weird, but still, again, Rhino-Heart is sort of like your main starter, if you will. And if you do open with this card, you essentially just have game right off the bat, which is pretty cool. Now we move on to the Bestial package. So you're probably wondering, what is the Bestial package? So for my Bestial package, I've got the Bestial Lubellion, Druid Worm, Magnum Hut, Serener, and the brand new card that was released in Photon Hypernova, known as Bestial Baldrake. Lubellion's effect reads that it cannot be normal summon or set, and must be special summon from the hand by attributing a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon. And you can only special summon this card once per turn this way. You can send this card from your hand to the grave, add a Bestial monster from your deck to your hand, except this card. During your main phase, you can place a branded continuous spell or trap from your deck face up on your field. You can only use each effect once per turn. So truth be told, the only Bestial, the only branded spell or trap that I have is branded Etude, which is one of the new additions to the deck that was released in, I believe, in Photon Hypernova, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was Cyberstorm Access. But this is actually a pretty cool way to have. This is actually a pretty good way to have a sort of a floodgate on board. Just off the effects of Lubellion alone. And what's cool about this is that Lubellion plus Diviner of the Herald, if you do decide to use its effect, which you probably won't, you can instantly go into a card like, say, Berdolin, or a brand new Synchro that was added to Photon. I believe Cyberstorm Accent, or Photon Hypernova, which I'll get to it in a bit, and read off its effect, because its effect just might shock you. So Lubellion is a pretty nasty card. Druid's Worm, and then I believe the rest of the 6-star dragons, they all have the same first effect, where it reads you can target one light or dark monster in either grave, banish it, and special summon this card from your hand. Now each of the 6-star dragons have their own second effect. Druid's Worm's effect reads that if it's sent from the field to the grave, you can target one special summon monster your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard. So it's it acts as sort of like a 1-for-1 of sorts, where not only does it get popped by itself, but you can also break your opponent's board by targeting any monster that you have on that they have at their disposal that was special summon, and just send it to the graveyard, which could be anything. Literally, it could be anything, even a 4-star monster for all we know, which is pretty cool. Magnum Hut's second effect reads if this card is special summoned, you can activate this effect during the end phase of the turn. Add a dragon from your deck or grave to your hand, except this card. So it's basically a Stratos, which is pretty cool. Serener's effect reads if this card is sent to the graveyard, whether it's like from the hand, the deck, the graveyard, or the field, or whatever, you can send one bestial monster or one branded spell trap from your deck to the grave, except this card. So it's sort of like a Foolish Burial, which is really nice. And then Baldrake is one of the newer additions. This one is interesting because its effect reads if your opponent special summons a ritual, fusion, synchro, exceeds, and or link monster or monsters, except during the damage step, you contribute one of the light or dark monster, target one of those special summon monsters, banish it. So it's sort of like a bottomless trap hole. It's sort of like a bottomless trap hole. And what's cool about this is that these are sort of like floodgates. So they're like floodgates on 6-star bodies, which is absolutely insane. So it's pretty cool to have these cards in the deck, because any of these 6-stars plus Vice of Starfrost, you can go into a 12-star monster, or if you have Ash Blossom, you could potentially go into a level 9 if you had one. But obviously this deck does not run any 9-stars, but these plus Diviner, depending on Diviner's level with its effect, you can go into either a level 8, a level 10, 11, 12, whichever one you may have at your disposal, which is pretty nuts. Then we have the Ishizu cards that got limited to 1. We've got Kelbeck the Ancient Vanguard, Mudor the Sword Oracle, Agito the Ancient Sentinel, and Keldo the Sacred Protector. Kelbeck's effect reads that if a card or cards is sent from the hand or deck to your opponent's graveyard, except during the damage step, you can target one special summon monster your opponent controls, special summon this card from your hand, then return that monster to the hand. So so it does send your opponent. So it does give your opponent a little bit of card advantage over you, but as long as you're able to. But as long as you're able to mill your opponent's deck, you can essentially just go full combo just with this one card alone, which is pretty cool. Let's see here. The other effect reads: if this card is sent from the hand or deck to the grave, you can activate this effect. Each player sends the top 5 cards of their deck to the grave, or their entire deck if less than 5. Then, if Exchange of the Spirit is in your graveyard, you can set a trap from your graveyard. You can only use each effect once per turn. This basically just forces your opponent. Whoa! Sorry, guys, my knee hit my desk. Anyway, this essentially just forces your opponent to make a move. If they don't have an out to Kelbeck's effect, you essentially just win. And what's cool about this is that nowadays there are some decks that actually do a lot of milling. This card is going to be pretty nasty. But still, it's pretty cool to see. Mudora's effect. Let's see. Mudora and Keldo's effect. Both are the exact same. Discard one other Earth Fairy monster special summons card from your hand. Then place one Gravekeeper's trap from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone. Keldo allows you to add Exchange of the Spirit or a card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Mudora's quick effect reads: banish this card from your field of grave, target up to 3 cards in any graveyard, or up to 5 if Exchange of the Spirit is on your field or in your graveyard. Shuffle them into the deck. So basically, Kelbeck and Agito have milling effects. Keldo and Mudora have Pot of Avarice effects, which are pretty cool. But what's also cool about this is that they can also help you go into your rank 4 plays or your link plays, such as Asa the Earth Charmer Immovable, or Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy if you have a dark monster on board, which the only darks that are in the main deck are Shiren, Havnus, Merly, Druid's Worm, Magnum Hut, Serener, and Baldrake. Everything else is light, water, and fire in the form of the Vice of Starfrost, the Terramance Kashtira, the Reinhardt, the Lubellion, Ash Blossom, the Effect Veiler, and of course the Diviner the Herald, which those last 3, Ash, Veiler, and Diviner, I am running 2 copies of each. Obviously, Ash Blossom, you don't want your opponent to be adding cards to their hand or special summoning anything. This card will just stop it in its tracks. Effect Veiler is just really good. It's a good generic disruption where you can just instantly negate anything. So it's sort of like a much more budget friendly version of Imperm. So if you don't have access to a card like say Imperm, then cards like Effect Veiler, or even also Fiendish Chain as well are also good cards to are also good replacements for the Imperm, which is really nice. And then Diviner. This is basically the card, a card that's basically, it's the replacement for Herald of Orange Light, because Orange Light got limited to 1 in the previous ban list that we got, what was it, in December? And yeah, it was the emergency ban list that we had, and it sat pretty well with the Ishizu tier players, because even though Orange Light was got limited to 1, there was still Diviner of the Herald, and it's still legal at 3, so it would only be right to run Diviner of the Herald. For the spells, it's pretty much the same as the last build. We've got the one instant fusion for Mudragon of the Swamp, and I just realized I don't think I need that. I think Ready Fusion is probably better. Yeah, okay, so what I'm going to do is, instead of Instant Fusion, I'm going to put in Ready Fusion. Because, truth be told, Ready Fusion is a lot better than Instant Fusion, because of the fact that I've got Mudragon of the Swamp and Garua Wings of Resident Life. They're both level 6 or lower, so Ready Fusion is a lot better than Instant Fusion. So only one copy of Ready Fusion, 2 copies of Terramance Heartbeat, which basically which basically the effect reads: target one spell or trap on the field, or two, or target two if you control Vice Starfrost. Shuffle them into the deck and send a card from your hand to the grave. Excuse me. If this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, target one tier limit trap in your grave, add it to your hand. So the tier limit traps that I have are Meta Noise, Solik, and Crime, which I'll talk about those in a second. If you have one of them in your graveyard, when Heartbeat was sent to the grave by a card effect, you can add one of those to your hand, which is really nice. We got the 2 copies of Tearlaments Scream. This is basically a way that you can get your fusion plays off if you milled Havness or Merly. If you milled pretty much everything, and you have Havness or Merly or whatever in your graveyard, and you want to go into the Collider Heart, guess what? You can actually do that, which is pretty cool. But the only way you can get the milling effect is if you normal summoned or special summoned, if a monster were normal or special summoned, whether it's by you or by your opponent, while you have a Tearlaments monster or Vice Starfrost. That's the only way. And also too, for the rest of the turn, all monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack. So this basically just gives you access to just attack over your opponent's monsters and just attack for game, which is pretty cool. And if it's sent to the grave by a card effect, you can add a Tearlaments trap from your deck to your hand. So Heartbeat adds from the graveyard to the hand. Scream adds from the deck to the hand, which is really nice. Then of course we got 2 copies of Mask Change 2, because I got obviously the Master Hero Acid and the Master Hero Dark Law, which is pretty nuts. And I believe I could also run, because then I'm running light, I believe I could also run Koga if I wanted to. If I wanted to, I could also run Master Hero Koga. What does this card do? Must be special summon with Mass Change. Cannot be summoned by other ways. This card gains 500 attack for each monster your opponent controls, and once per turn during either player's turn, you can banish a hero from your grave, target a face-up monster on the field. That target loses attack equal to the attack of the monster banished to activate this effect until the end of the turn. I mean, to be fair, I could run Koga because of the fact that it gains more attack. But the problem is that there aren't any other heroes that I run other than Acid and Dark Law. So I'm gonna choose to keep it the way it is. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, that's that. So again, Mass Change 2 is in here for obviously Acid and Dark Law. And what's cool about this is that when you discard for cost, I believe the ruling is that you can actually trigger off the effects of like Merle, Havness, and whatnot, and go into the Collider Heart or into any other fusion play that you're allowed to summon, which is pretty cool actually. Then we got the one Pot of Avarice, just in case if you don't have any way to take cards from your grave and put them back into your deck. Avarice is in here to ensure that, basically, which is really nice. Then we got the one Harpy's Feather Duster, because back row is a pain in the fucking ass. Then we move on into the field spells, which are the last of the spells in the main deck. So we got two Primeval Planet Paralino, and then the one Tearlaments Perlegia, which I believe there was another field spell that got released, wasn't it? I don't think so. I think this was just the only ones. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's the only field spell actually. Yeah, I think that's I think these are the only two field spells for the deck, if I'm not mistaken. But But the two Perlinos effect reads when this card is activated, you can add one Tier Limits monster or Rise Starfrost from your deck to your hand. So it's sort of like a Rhoda. So it's sort of like a Rhoda upon activation, which is really nice. Fusion monsters and Tier Limits monsters you control gain 500 attack, and if a Tier Limits monster you control or in your graveyard is shuffled into the deck or extra deck, except during the damage tab, you can target one card of the field, destroy. Can only use this effect once per turn. Can only activate one Perlino per turn. So this card is actually pretty nuts because because not only is this a trap hole / MST, it's also a great way to get all of your fusions, to give all of your fusions an additional 500 attack. Whether it's the Kaleidohar, the Dragostapelia, the Garua, Acid, Darklaw, Mud Dragon, it doesn't matter. So let's say so that means let's see, extra 500. That means Kaleidohar would go up to 3,500. Dragostapelia would go up to, I believe, would go up to 3,200. Garua would go up to 2K. Acid would go up to 3,100. Darklaw would go up to 2,900, and then Mud Dragon would go up to 2,400, I believe. And then everything else would just go up to like however much attack they gain. In fact, Shiren, I think Tyrannus Cashier would go up to 2,800. Shiren would go up to 2,300. Havnus would go up to 2,100. Merle would go up to only 1,300, and then the Reinhardt would go up to 2K, which is pretty crazy. So that's not too bad, not too bad at all. And also too, upon activation, it's a fucking Rhoda. So if you do open with the Perlino, you essentially just have full combo right there. You can literally search out for. You can search out for the Reinhardt, normal summon the Reinhardt, trigger its effect, get the milling effect off, and if you milled, let's say, Havnus or Merle, Havnus and Merle, you can use Havnus effect, send all three back into the deck, summon the Kaleidohar, and you have a 3,500 beat stick on board, which is pretty nuts. Then, of course, we got the Tier Limits Perlegia, in which its effect reads, Fusion monsters and Tier Limits monsters you control gain 500 attack, so it's basically the same. Let's see. If an Aqua Tier Limits monster is sent to your graveyard by a card effect during the damage step, you can send a level 4 or lower Aqua monster from your deck to the grave. But if you send a non-Tier Limits monster to the grave, for the rest of the turn, you cannot activate cards or effects of cards with the same name as that sent card. So the only problem with this is that obviously the Shiren, the Havnus, and the Merle are all at once. So you're not going to be seeing this card get played all that much. So it's a bit of a downside to the card, but at least you'll be able to get off their effects, which is pretty cool. That's it. That's pretty much it. Pretty much it for the spells. For the traps, there's only 6 of them. We got the one Tier Limits Meta Noise, the one Soul League, the one Tier Limits Crime, the one Branded Etude, and the 2 Solemn Warning. Soul League's effect, Meta Noise effect reads, if you control a Tier Limits monster or Rise Starfrost, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, change it to face-down defense. Then send a Tier Limits monster from your deck to the grave. If this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, you can target one Tier Limits monster in your grave, add it to your hand. So not only is this a Book of Moon, but it's also a sort of like a it's sort of like a monster reincarnation of sorts. So what's cool about this is that it comes as a it sort of comes as a 1-for-1, where this card gets sent to your graveyard by a card effect, and you're adding a Tier Limits monster from your grave back to your hand, which which for the most part is probably gonna end up being the Reinhardt. So you can normal summon again next turn, mill off whatever cards you may have at your disposal. If you end up milling Mudora, you can end up banish the Mudora, take three cards from your graveyard, any 3 cards, shuffle them back into your deck, and just combo off from there, which is really nice. Solik's effect reads if you control a Tyrannus monster or Rise of Starfrost, target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects, and send a monster you control to the graveyard. So if you have Merly on board, you get a fusion play right off the bat, which is really nice. And if this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, add a Tyrannus monster from your deck to your hand, which is a once per turn. Crime's effect is basically Solemn Judgment. When a spell or trap or monster effect is activated, while you control a Tyrannus monster or Rise of Starfrost, negate the activation, shuffle that card into the deck, and send a monster from your hand to the grave. If this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, target 1 of your banished Tyrannus monsters, add it to your hand. So basically, these 3 work hand in hand, kind of like Ash Blossom, Ghost Bell, and Ghost Ogre. These 3 work hand in hand. Meta Noise is a Book of Moon monster reincarnation. Solik is a Fiendish Chain is a Fiendish Chain Rhoda, and Tyrannus Crime is a Solemn Judgment I would say Solemn Judgment, but because that the card gets sent back into the deck, it's a wiretap / DDR, I guess, where instead of special summoning the banished monster, you add it to your hand, which is really nice. Then of course we got the one branded Etude. Etude's effect reads during either player's turn, you can immediately, after the effect resolves, synchro summon using monsters you control as material, including a dragon. You can only use this effect once per turn. And while you control a bestial monster, any monster sent to your opponent's grave, because they were attributed for a ritual summon or used as material for a fusion, synchro, or link summon, is banished instead. This is sort of like Dark Law, but just a little bit different, if you will. So that's pretty cool. That's why I chose the whole Bestial Lubellion branded E2 combo, is because you want to see your opponent's cards get banished instead. If they get sent to the graveyard, it doesn't bode well for you for the most part. But if you have Dark Law as well on board, you have a very powerful floodgate, because Dark Law can send any card. Because with Dark Law, any card, monster, spell, trap, whatever, that would be sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. Whereas opposed to E2, it's any monster, which is okay, but these two are so crazy together. And then we got the 2 Solemn Warning, because well, you don't want your opponent doing anything. Literally, you don't want them doing anything. For the God, I swear, that dog needs to shut up. Sorry, guys, my grandparents have a dog that my bastard uncle decided to bring over years ago, and that dog does not listen. She's literally like my uncle. She don't listen. So, but that being said, we are now moving on into the action deck. Obviously, we've got the one Kaleido Heart, which uses up Reinhardt plus 2 Aqua monsters, which could be a Shiren and Havnus and Merly, Merly and Shiren. The combinations are pretty much endless, and the effect reads that it cannot be used as fusion material. If this card is supposed to summon, or if an Aqua monster is sent to your grave, by card effect, while this card is on the field, you can target a card your opponent controls, shuffle it into the deck, and if this card is sent to the grave by card effect, you can summon this card. If you do, send a Tyrannus card from your deck to the grave. This card is absolutely nuts because it can just shuffle cards back into your opponent's deck, and it sets them back a turn, which is really nice. And especially the fact that it's a 3-star body. It's essentially a sort of like a blue eyes white dragon, but with an effect, which is pretty nuts. Then we got obviously the Dragon's Tapelia. This card is so weird, but it's so pretty. It's so good. In fact, I think let's see what other fusions could be ran with this card with this deck. Yeah, I think maybe the Dragon's Tapelia, unless if there's something else. Starving Venom Predapower Fusion Dragon could be run with this deck. Starving Venom if you had Super Poly, which is pretty cool. And then Starving Venomy Dragon is not really. Okay, so Dragon's Tapelia is probably the best card, but what's cool about Dragon's Tapelia is that you can target any face-up monster that your opponent has, put a Predator counter on it, and it becomes level 1 if it's level 2 or higher, which is pretty funny. And what's even more funny is that this card, as long as the monster that you targeted has a Predator counter on it, it basically becomes a Fiendish Chain, which is kind of hilarious. Then, of course, we got the Garua, which is only in here for the Dragon's Tapelia, as is the Mud Dragon, which is also pretty cool. Then, of course, we got the Master Hero Acid for, because it acts as a Harpy's Feather Duster, which is pretty cool. And then Dorklaw, because it can just banish. It can banish cards that would normally be sent to the opponent's grave, and any card and if your opponent adds cards to their hands from the deck, you get to banish a card at random from their hand, which is really nice. So it forces your opponent to activate their floodgates. So if they activate their floodgates, then you essentially just are pretty much screwed, and they can just combo off and just attack you for a game, which is pretty crazy. Now for the synchro plays. Again, I already mentioned the Mud Dragon, so I don't need to explain it. But we move on into the synchro. So the funny thing about this deck is that if you have Bestial Lubellion and Ash Blossom, or if you have Druis Worm, or pretty much any way to make a level 11 synchro, guess what you can summon? Yeah, Psychic and Punisher, which is a nasty card. This card is nasty. So the effect reads: while your life points are less than or equal to your opponent's, this synchro summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. And once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points, target a monster you control, and a card your opponent controls, banish them. At the end of the battle phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to the difference in your life points and your opponent's. And the craziest part is that the attack gain is permanent. It's permanent. This is literally the best way to break your opponent's board and essentially just potentially attack per game, which is nuts, depending on how much attack it gains, which is really nice. Then we move on to the newest addition to the deck. It is known as Bestial Dispatter. If you guys have never seen this card before, it's a 10-star Dark Dragon Synchro, 3,500 attack and defense, and requires a tuner and one or more non-tuner dragons. So it's basically it's basically Lubellion plus Diviner, or or um or Druid's Worm plus Diviner if it becomes level 4. So you would have to literally send another copy of Diviner to make Diviner level 4, which is kind of stupid, but still it's pretty cool. But still it's pretty cool to actually make this card. But the effect reads that you can target one banished light or dark monster, special summon to your field. And when your opponent activates a monster effect, which is a quick effect, target one banished card, shuffle it into the deck, and if you were that card's owner, destroy that monster. If your opponent was, negate the activated effect. So what's cool about this is that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because whether whether your opponent can own it or you own it, it doesn't matter. The effect still, I believe the ruling is that the effect still gets negated either way, which is pretty cool. Then of course we got obviously Baron as a nice way to potentially just break boards, and also to be able to summon out cards such as Lubellion, Kashtira, or even also Vice Starfrost, just by sending this card back into the extra deck, which is pretty cool. Which, funny enough, yeah, I decided to finally got my hands on a sealed box of Synchro Storm. I know Synchro Storm isn't the best set. I do plan to open this box up at some point, sometime in the next few weeks. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But hopefully we do get our hands on a Baron. But still, Baron is a pretty nasty card. Then of course we got Draco Berserker of the Tenny, which acts as which is basically a monster negation, which is really nice, and it can also make a second attack on a monster during the battle phase, which is really nice. And then the Side-Flying Lord Omega as a way to take any of your banished cards, put them back into your grave, so you can use their effects over and over again, such as the Mudora or the Keldo, which is kind of hilarious. The Xyz monsters, there's only two. We got the Pilgrim Reaper and the Abyss Dweller. Pilgrim Reaper is in here to not only force mill your opponent's deck, but also you could also potentially mill a lot of your Tearlaments cards, trigger off their effects, and just combo off in there, which is really nice. And then the Abyss Dweller is in here to stop any decks that have graveyard effects. So Dweller is in here for that specific reason, which is pretty cool. And then to round up the extra deck, we got the Dark Charmer Gloomy, which acts as a monster reborn from your opponent's graveyard for dark monsters, which can help you go into your Psychic and Punisher, your Bestial Dispatter, or pretty much any of your synchro plays that you may have at your disposal. And if it were to be destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect, you can add any dark monster with 1500 or less from your deck to your hand. Also, the Earth Charmer Immovable is basically does the exact same thing, but for Earths, which is pretty cool. That's it for the extra deck. The side deck is a bit wonky. It's my preference anyway, but you can use whatever you want for your guys' side deck. But my side deck consists of two Ghost Spell. Obviously, is sort of similar to Ash Blossom, but it works with the graveyard. We got the two Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. It's kind of an odd one, but it's a great way to. It's a perfect way to gain more life points over your opponent for Psychic and Punisher, which is really nice. We got the Geomathematic Final Sigma. So Vice Starfrost plus any one of the 4 6-star dragons, you can instantly go into the Geomathematic Final Sigma, which is really nice. We have the one Underworld Goddess of the Closed World as a way to help ensure that that your opponent doesn't do anything. So it's sort of like a Dark Ruler no more slash like solemn warning, I guess, sort of. It's pretty weird. Unchained Abomination, probably the most hilarious card you could ever play in a deck like this. But what's cool about this is that it can just easily break boards. It can break boards during the battle phase, which is insane. And during the end phase, you can pop any card on the board, which is pretty nuts. So literally, you're popping 2 cards in one turn, breaking your opponent's board, which is really nice. Then of course we got the one Nightmare Phoenix just for more back row removal, and you can instantly link it off into the Unchained Abomination, which is really nice. For the spells in the side deck, we have a second Pot of Avarice, just in case again, just in case if you want to try and summon out the Kaleidoheart and you have no way to do it, then having 2 copies of Pot of Avarice is really nice to have in the main. And what's cool about this is that it's not a once per turn, which is hilarious. And then 2 copies of Twin Twister for even more back row removal. And for the traps, we got 2 copies of Zing Zang Hu just to stop your opponent from using their back row during the end phase. So if they set to back row, you can activate this card, target those 2 back row, they can't use them. Plain simple. And then we have 2 copies of Solemn Strike. So that's pretty much it for the deck. I'm gonna be honest, I never thought this deck would work as it does. If you guys want to check out the photo of the deck, I'll be posting it on my Instagram later on today at the time that I'm doing this. Which I'm not gonna post it until like potentially within an hour or 2, maybe even like 3 hours after this video gets put up. So, but still, it's pretty cool that you're able to see the Ishizu tier deck still be able to be consistent, but not as like powerful and dangerous as it was when everything was at 3 and everything was still legal. So, but all in all, this deck is pretty nuts. Again, if you guys want to check out the photo, the link to my Instagram will be in the description below. And that will do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, follow me on all my social media. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.